Seriously, thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Your generous backing is truly awesome. It is how I manage to keep making this content and much more a reality. Every little bit helps keep me going, and it means I can keep providing you with content full time. A special thank you to Diego Navarro Lunares, Kay Fernandez, Rodolfo Fernandez, Lucius Lau, Taylor Hunter, Jackson Frazier, Allison Stalker, Muna, Chisun Week. Thank you all so much, and I truly appreciate your support. Hello, hello.
Yo, what's up, Andres?
How are you doing, buddy?
Good, man. I'm trying to get my camera to work here. I don't know why.
Oh,
it's
no
not,
worries. We're probably gonna cut the video. I was actually like, this is like totally audio, so
okay.
you could just listen to it in your headphones while you're doing your workout and whichever. So I just do the video in the beginning just to like say hello, but I actually don't even like include any video footage at all. So
Okay, no problem.
yeah, so I'll probably shut mine off because you don't want to look at my ugly mug the whole time.
It's nice seeing that beautiful face again.
Oh, thanks, man. That kind of brings me to so I think I told you before too. So my wife, I think I'm not sure if she went to the same high school as you went to, but she's from Corona and she went to like Santiago High. I'm
No, I went to Corona High School.
Oh, okay, got it. I was like kind of wondering. I'm like, I wonder if they went to the same high school or
I didn't know your wife was from Corona. I don't remember that.
Yeah. So she was originally born in Houston, Texas. Then they moved to Atlanta, and then I think she was like stayed there till she was like maybe 4 or 5 years old, and then her dad ended up like getting work out in California, and I think they like kind of settled in Orange County for a little bit, and then eventually the housing tracks were just getting started in Corona, like really big. I don't know if you've been in Corona recently, but I remember when it was like not even like that long to get into Corona. Now it's like an hour just getting in through the traffic, and it's just so.
Yeah, I mean, traffic has always been bad, especially if you're going through like the 71.
Oh, right, yeah. I think
where
that's.
where the 71 meets the 91 is like the worst place on planet Earth. It's just terrible. And then like the 91 is just bad at any rush hour point. Same with the 15. So it's like, Corona sucks because, I mean, I love Corona, actually. I grew up there. But what I mean is like the traffic sucks because if you, it's where every major highway meets. The 71,
Right.
It's where the 91 and the 15 cross, which are the two major freeways. And then you have things like the 71, where it's
Yeah.
like it bottlenecks right before it gets to the 91, and so it just at the wrong times, and even not the wrong times. Sometimes it's just the worst place to get.
Right. I mean, like now living outside of the state, I mean, all traffic is sort of like cute to me now.
Yeah.
The 91, but I grew up in the South Bay, sort of over like Gardena, Torrance, like, more south from you guys. But the 91 was like a freeway we frequented quite often. The 91, the 110. For those of you who, also live out of the state of California, we always put the in front of our freeway numbers. I noticed that as soon as I moved here to Texas, everyone's like, "What? Why do you say the?" Because everyone just says the number, and I'm like, oh, it must be just this California thing where we always say the 5.
In California, live on the highway.
Yeah. And I must thank you guys too, because when I went to Corona, she also had introduced me, because I coming from like South Los Angeles, like I had my like sort of Mexican food like spots.
Oh, so She introduced you to Miguel's.
Oh yeah, so because
Miguel's is the best.
I
Bro.
literally
Like, straight up the best.
I literally proclaimed, I said, we have the best burritos in the South, which I still stand by today. I feel like our burrito at this place called LBJ's can stand shoulder to shoulder with Miguel's. It just the burrito though. I mean, but everything else at Miguel's, oh my gosh, what
Miguel's,
life changing.
I don't know what it is. I swear their refried beans are cooked with crack.
What?
And it's funny because like when I brought my wife to Corona one time, I was like, oh, you gotta have Miguel's. It's the best. It's one of those things like you grow up with it. They had Miguel's in our high school lines. Like that was always the line that was like 6 times longer than everything else.
Wow.
So you could get like a bean, rice, and cheese burrito or a bean and cheese burrito. And that was the line that like you ran to the line because you wanted to get there first. Otherwise you were waiting in lunch for, half of lunchtime.
Exactly.
For a burrito. And then when you become a junior in high school and you get the, off-campus stuff, there was a Miguel's just near the school. And man, the times you go there. But I took my wife and I was just like, this is the greatest place ever. And I realized that I grew up here, but I promise you it's the best place ever.
Yeah, you guys could be a little biased, but in this instance, you are correct.
Yes, and she had it, and we left, and she goes like, it was okay.
What?
I was like, are you sick? Are you okay? Like, and then, but check this out. As time passed, we went a couple more times, and now, even, like just last week, because we live out of California now too, and she's like, I have been craving Miguel's, and I'm like, right?
Exactly.
I told her, I was all, that is one of the few places in the world I could eat every day, and it never gets old. Like, when it's you always feel like eating Miguel's. When it never goes away.
When my wife described it to me, she described something called the garbage burrito, and I said, well, first off, I would never eat anything with the preface garbage in it. And she said, no, like you just don't understand. Like it's just like you just have to like try it. And I think the first thing I tried, I didn't try the burritos first. I tried like the 2 shredded beef tacos with
so good. I love those things.
A mountain of cheese. I mean, I've never, other than a pizza, I've never seen that much cheese, and the cheese is glorious. I mean, such an amazing. So every time when we fly in, we do our Miguel stop, and then we go to my place, LBJ's, which if we're ever in California at the same time, I really need to take you. It's right off of the beach. I think I buy like 6 at a time, and I bring them with me in my carry-on, and you should see the face of the TSA people. They're just like, what are you doing? Like, what are in these things? And I'm like, you just wouldn't understand. So I bring them home here to Texas, and I freeze them, and I eat them like periodically.
That's awesome.
So
Miguel's is just one of those places, and it's it was originated in Corona, and it really hasn't expanded very much. Like the farthest one I think is in Fontana.
Do you want to know one other crazy thing my wife did? So this is like, again, we were still dating at the time. We hadn't even really became that serious of a thing. But she had already taken me to Miguel's, and then on one of our dates, she decided to take me to the actual Miguel house, like where the family lives, like this huge compound.
I've never known that.
Yeah, there's an actual like Miguel's comp. I guess she was like maybe friends with one of the Miguel people or whatever. I'm saying Miguel because
I don't have that level.
Yeah. Yeah, she was very proud of that, and I have to say it is the one shining thing that whenever I'm in Corona, like we have to hit that, and another place called Porky's Pizza, which I don't know if it's like that famous, whatever, but her family
my brother was a manager at Porky's.
Oh, okay.
And yes, when I was a kid, that was my favorite pizza.
Right.
One of the ones that they let me, and we always got a discount because he worked there, right? So,
nice.
But when they introduced this pizza, it was my favorite one. It was called, I don't know what it was called, but it was layered. So they would do a cheese layer and then a pepperoni layer.
Oh,
and
right.
A cheese layer and then a pepperoni layer, and it was, oh my gosh! As a kid.
Wow. I kind of feel like I definitely felt like a kindred spirit with you, because I kind of felt like both you and me, other than being total Mexican foodies, we grew up sort of outside of the animation industry, with the industry being, so centered in the valley, or
Sure.
if you're not from California, that's like Burbank, and the surrounding areas. And, growing up, I actually didn't even know animation was done in California. Like, I knew there was like Disney Studios and stuff like that, but I didn't realize that it was like everything was centered in just this one area, and it was referred to quite often as the capital of animation. And I remember, like, not until I got into the actual animation industry did I even know that. And here I am. I grew up in California, in Los Angeles, in the backyard of the animation industry, and never knew that. And I guess I'm kind of curious as to, like, what led you to animation, and did you know it was already fairly close to where you were located?
Um, yes and no. So I have loved drawing. So my brothers grew up. I have four older brothers. The oldest brother is 10 years older than me, and so he
Oh,
was kind of going through college when I was in middle school and uh, in high school, and so. But I've been drawing since I was a kid. I've always wanted to draw. I've always loved drawing. It's always been like Ninja Turtles has always been my favorite thing on
nice.
earth. When I was 4 years old, like my favorite movie was the 1990s Ninja Turtles movie, which actually surprises me that my parents let me watch it as much as they did, because
That was pretty
it's got, like,
intense. That was an
yeah, so
intense one.
it was a little bit more dark, and it has swear words and stuff, and so and I come from a religious family, so I
Right,
was a little
right.
surprised. I was a little surprised that they let me watch that. But I look back at my childhood, I'm like, dude, I had that movie on repeat, and it was between that and Return of the Jedi. It's just like those were the constant.
Ooh.
And I'll be honest, Return of the Jedi was merely, I'm pretty sure, if I look back at my childhood, it was because Luke was dressed in black and had a green lightsaber. Those were like the only things I cared about. I didn't care about the story or anything like that. It was just seeing Luke do cool things with the green lightsaber.
The visuals, like sucked
yeah.
you in. The visuals probably.
Well, I'm learning I'm a very aesthetically driven person. Aesthetics motivate me in quite a lot of ways. But
Wow.
so I don't think it's any coincidence I became a designer. But so I grew up, and my brother started to pursue animation and went to Fullerton and got into their animation program. And so he kind of took me, sometimes he took me to like some of their, I remember one time he went to the Natural History Museum, and so we went together with his class, and like Alex Deligianis was there, and there's just a bunch of people from his class, his
Whoa.
Fullerton days, where became pretty mainline animation people. So, that was cool. So I was a little bit more surrounded by it. And obviously, being that they were in Fullerton and, and my brothers were pursuing animation, I don't know if I really ever thought about where it was hubbed at, but
yeah.
I just knew that that's what I was going to do and pursue.
It was hubbed in Fullerton as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, exactly. I just, and then eventually they got like internships at Cartoon Network and stuff like that.
Oh,
and so
wow.
He ended up bringing home a lot of like the drawings from like Clone Wars, the cartoons back then, the Giddy Tartakovsky ones. And
oh my gosh, what an era!
I know, dude. You're telling me. And he'd bring home like original drawings from like Paul Rudish.
I was gonna say Paul something. His last name was kind of amazing beard. I think he's got one of the nicest beards I've ever seen.
I was about to say Paul Rudd, and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah, Paul Rudish, and then he'd bring home like the Brian Andrews storyboards, and it was just like super inspiring and motivating for me.
Oh, I got a Brian Andrews story for you too, by the way.
Okay, I don't know them personally, but my brother does.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I had the not the pleasure, but I accidentally punched him directly in the face, like full contact. If you don't know this, he's an amazing martial artist. I mean, incredible,
yes,
very good at it. And we were working at Sony at the same time, not on the same crew. I was with Darwin's crew, and I don't know. One day he was just he'd always kind of ask people to participate in some kind of demonstration of his martial arts. And I remember one day he was just like, "All right, I want you to punch me as hard as you can. I'm gonna block it, but I just want to show you, like what the proper, whatever. And I said, okay. And I just like, boom, went in and just connected. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like this guy's gonna kill me. He was so gracious. He was like, oh, you got me. I'm like, I am so sorry. What a talent, though. I mean, to be in his presence. He talked a lot about his older brother too. I love how we already have this theme of brothers. You talked about Ninja Turtles, and that theming of that has always been about brothers, and I love how it sort of paralleled your life with your brothers going into a creative field, and how that sort of, I don't want to say completely inspired you, but I'm sure like whatever Big Brother's doing, you want to be a part of too, right?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it was, and and my older brother collected a bunch of comic books, and I remember sneaking about, looking at them and going over to his place and just constantly flipping through. At the time, I'd flip through. He had a lot of wizards, and I would flip through
Ooh,
those for the art. And I'm not gonna lie, I was really big on. I loved Danger Girl a lot. That was a big one for me.
Campbell, right? I'm thinking.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very aesthetically driven. So,
So did you want to do comics? Was comics like something you were considering
you know,
at some point?
I think art was just kind of ambiguous in my head at the time, nebulous, I should say. So to
Oh,
me, it's just I just always wanted to be a good artist, and like period. And like fine art appeals to me as much as animation. Like I want to be able to do both.
whoa.
And unfortunately, I can't at the moment. I'm much better at animation than I am at fine art, but and I think there's a happy medium. I actually find more satisfaction in pushing and pulling and things. I think fine art can get kind of dull and boring. So I'd much rather have stylization and so on. But
I would recommend
um,
sculpture than actual
I
physical sculpture.
that appeals to me.
If
That appeals to me.
it is the one of the most, I think, rewarding experiences I've ever had is, I don't know if you heard of a guy named Kenny Tompkins, but he would have this free class at Disney. Like this was back when Disney was like giving you free meals and free education at night. So you'd work like a full day on your show, and then at nighttime it was like artist enrichment time, which they did have painting and everything. But I remember they had a maquette class, and part of the class was like building a wire armature using like foil to build like the structure of the body. And Kenny Tompkins was pretty much teaching you how to work with sculpty clay. And I remember even now, and I still have some of my maquettes that I did back then. They've all since cracked because I didn't take care of them, but um, it was one of those feelings where you can actually like reach out and actually touch your creation. Not saying that
Yeah,
like in your mind's eye you can't feel like you're touching like a virtual clay, when you're drawing, but to physically see it in front of you and to mold it, it is just such an amazing feeling of creation that I really have never felt anywhere else. It just that feeling of actually like you're literally molding a hand or an arm or a face or lips,
yeah,
and gosh,
yeah. And I'll be honest, that appeals to me. That heavily appeals to me.
yeah, I'll send you some video stuff because I do teaching as well, and one of my students right now is very much into sculpture. And I said, if you really want to get into, because he loves drawing, but he doesn't like doing rotations, which we'll talk a little bit about what that is. He
Who
doesn't like
does?
technical things, and I kind of feel like character design, or even just drawing. That was one of the big things when I first started seeing professionals in the animation industry. How many angles you have to draw of a single character,
Yeah,
and how that spoke to your knowledge of anatomy, your knowledge of like the human form. So you're in middle school slash high school. Your brothers are starting to blow up, in the industry, I imagine.
I would say blow up, but they were definitely involved in it.
And what is that? What's happening with you? Do you get the talk from one of them where they're like, hey, like, you're talented. We think like you should, do this as well, or you
You know,
completely like this is probably way too crazy for me. I need to work in insurance or something. Like,
no, no. In fact, actually, I served a 2-year mission for my church, and when I came back,
oh, wonderful.
I ended up dating a girl and eventually got engaged to her, and we broke up. And I realized, looking back at it, a large part of that is because she didn't want me to pursue art.
Whoa.
She kept saying it was volatile. It was fickle, and
Hmm.
she wanted the security of a job, a 9 to 5 job, kind of thing. And so she wanted me to pursue teaching. And since I learned Spanish on my mission, I figured, oh, okay, I'll just learn to teach Spanish. And I was going to college, and all I'm doing during classes is drawing, right? Like,
Whoa.
I don't care about I have no care about any grade I get. I I was actually in college with one of my brothers at the time, and I would just we shared a couple classes. In any class we just shared, I just drew during the class, and then I'd be like, "Yo, give me your notes." And he was
Wow.
gracious. My brother loved me enough to do that, and so he'd get A's because he was a studious person, and I'd get B's, and I was okay with that because I wasn't trying. And so, I don't know. I was constantly drawing, and we kept having these kind of fights, and I just felt like my life was going in a direction I didn't want it to go. So I broke it off with her in the end of July in 2011, and then in August I was moved out to California, and I was full time pursuing animation.
Gosh.
Because I love cartoons, and so I ended up moving in with my other brother, and he had a goal too. He at the time was working as a production assistant on Ben 10.
Ooh, nice.
Alien.
Wow.
With Gwen Mirakami and Gwen Long and all them.
Some legends.
So what we would do is we would wake up, because he knew we both shared the same goal of wanting to be great artists. We would wake up at 4 a.m. We would go into Cartoon Network super early, and we would draw until about 10 when everyone started showing up for work. And we would just study and draw. And he was trying to be a board artist at the time, and at the time I kind of was too. And so we would draw, and we'd just try and get better and better and better and better.
Wait a minute, there's boards that you've done that I've never seen? I didn't know this.
No, I have not done boards. I think I could. Honestly, I think I know enough about storytelling and shot composition and stuff. Obviously, there'd be a learning curve, but
I mean, come on, man! Like, are you kidding me?
I am a designer, and my shorthand is pretty good, and my gestures are okay, and I think I could board. In fact, I kind of want to, if I'm being honest.
My favorite board artists are former character designers, and if
Chuck Patton told me almost the same thing. He said,
absolutely,
designers transition really easily.
Oh my gosh! You talk about acting,
and then their models are so good. Like, they already know how to act, and they already know how to like draw on models. So their boards are always way more, kind of tight, if you will.
Like, I feel like when I was lucky enough to direct, I would, look at people's portfolios, and if I ever saw somebody with a character design portion to their portfolio, they'd always come to me. I'd always say, like, this is the person I want to talk to first, because I know they're going to give me great performances because they love characters. And I'm the type of person where, like, I don't like filming a chair for an hour. Like, I want to film the people, and I want the people to be the narrative, not just how cool your camera angles are. Not saying I don't love that stuff, but going back to Return of the Jedi, those moments, those striking moments in the film always had a character in it, whether it's Vader, whether it's Luke, whether it's again, any one of those great characters. But I for me personally, I got into boards before. That was like my first thing, board revision. But I would always hang out, and this is back in the day when, like, everybody was under the same roof, even the animators. I'd always hang out in the character design department, and literally after hours, I'd be a total studio junkie. Just, you sound like an original studio junkie, being there before everybody else starts their day. If everyone doesn't know this, most artists don't get in, to work till like a little after 10 or maybe 10. some artists can work on their own schedules if they're experienced enough. They don't even really need to come in. Maybe just for meetings or something. Usually, you just get a deadline when something's due, right? I'm not sure if in your career if that was sort of the way you worked, but
Actually, I will touch on that for a second because I love this topic. Yeah, when I was younger, it's one of those things too where I put in a lot of extra work that I didn't charge because I don't want them knowing. It's one of those weird lines you have to balance. Obviously you get the people that are like, charge all the hours you work because otherwise you're hurting everybody, and it's like, well, I don't know if that's entirely true. I need them to think. I need them to think that in a 40-hour work week, I'm valuable. Is kind of how I viewed it. So I would charge up to a degree, and then I would put in a lot of extra work if I felt like I needed it to be better beyond the hours because, I don't want them saying like, oh, he's taking too long, and then I get fired because they need someone that can do the job quickly. So I took that approach, and it paid off for me because now I'm very fast. And so now I can do the job in like 2 hours and, have a lot more time to finesse or do more or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but I felt like that was a good trade-off. It wasn't so much that they were overworking me. It was more like I felt like my skill needed more time, and it's not fair to their money. Like they're already paying me, and I don't want to be taking twice as long as the average person. And so if I took twice as long, I only billed half as much, right?
Right.
And then eventually, you just develop the skills and the tricks. And now, like I said, when I was working on Casa Grandes, I could fill the whole 4-week assignment. I could be done in like 3 days. So,
wow.
It was like, that show is so easy to draw. And so with that, I just had a lot of extra time. And so what I would do is I'd take a lot of freelance and as long as I was doing my job and I was completing my deadlines and making my deadlines, I would do that. So as far as the schedule goes, early in my career, when I was at Dream East with you, actually when I was on Dream East before you got there, I would go in at 4 or 5 in the morning by myself, draw for 4 or 5 hours, and then at 10 o'clock I'd start my work day and draw for.
Oh my gosh!
Work. And then I'd go home, and then I'd probably go home and draw some work because I really like drawing.
Jeez.
So yeah, I would do that a lot, and then when I eventually got to Warner Brothers and I had my first kid, I would come in at 10, but I would like fall asleep at my desk for hours. I was so tired when my first kid came around. And then eventually I went to Harley Quinn, and I would usually get in around 10, like on average, like the average artist. But I liked to stay late, and even if I didn't stay late, I'd go home and draw a lot more. And I'm a night owl, so getting up early in those formative years of my life was not the norm. And and then when I got to Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you get a little bit more comfortable in your schedule, and you realize you're a little bit more secure, and people like you, and you're not going to have to worry about your job. And I always meet my deadlines. That was really big for me, was meeting my deadlines. And because of that, and I'm very open with my production, so they know where I'm at, and they know, those kinds of things. I tend to keep the lines of communication really open, and because of that, I have found that I've earned a level of trust in most of my productions that I now do whatever I want, and most people are okay with it. So
very nice.
What I mean by that is like when I was on Rise, eventually they got to a point where I'd come to work at 2 p.m. was when I started my work day, and they never once complained about it, at least not to me. So,
yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, you're a professional. You know what needs to get done. You know when your deadline is, and like nobody really needs to like ride you. And
yeah, and that's the key here. Is like it's about quality and it's about deadlines. It's like, so if I'm meeting my deadlines and they like the quality of work, then what's there to complain about, right? Like,
yeah.
So
absolutely.
And I think a lot of in a creative field too. I think a lot of people understand that creatives need kind of what makes them comfortable, because when they're comfortable, they work best. So, if he gets in at 2 and he produces better work, but if you force him in at 10 and he's tired and he's working at 50% capacity for those 8 hours, and you're getting, horror quality work and
right,
and he's slower, well then, like at that point, like if he comes in at 2 and works 100%, let him come in at 2 and work 100%. You're getting a better quality product, and you'll meet the deadline. So
You know,
I think people.
it's so interesting because like the modern person coming out of college right now, or getting into the industry, it's such a different time in a lot of ways too, where like you and me, we're in an era where like it was very much sort of like the older, kind of studio days, where like the studio, you show up to work at a job physically.
Yeah.
It's very important that you show up and be on time, and all this sort of like, I guess what you would consider pre-Gen Z, kind of characteristics, and and that's something I saw my parents do. They got up every
Yeah.
day, got dressed up in their nice clothes, and went to a job, and then I'd see them at night, so that it was just sort of a very normal thing to do. And I think once COVID hit, that was the first time, at least in my life, where I felt like completely trusted by an employer to do my job without, again, somebody like physically having to really like check over me. I'm not saying like I didn't have autonomy before that, but it was really like, hey, we're gonna trust you guys that you're gonna do what needs to get done, and
Yeah.
not just be at like TJ Maxx all day, or toy shop, shopping. And
Yeah. Well, I was on.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Keep going. No, keep going.
No, I was just saying, like how it's just interesting how much you were talking about, and I think the reason I thought about that was, how you're working on multiple things at one time. Like, I think as artists, and I think especially animation artists, we've always been the type of people who like to juggle many things, especially like if you're getting bored on something, or you feel like, my work's getting a little stale. Let me jump on
Yeah.
something else and have
That's
sort of
fair.
3 plates spinning, so I can always be fresh on whatever plate, I have. But I think, were you one of those artists who also invested in equipment at home, like a Cintiq at home, a
Yeah,
decent
I have a
computer?
Cintiq. I've had a Cintiq at home.
So you were already kind of thinking like, hey, like I can do this on my own, be the studio, because what if it's just a Cintiq that we're walking into at a studio? Most of the time, these buildings are not made for animation. I think Dream East, where you and me work together, I don't know what it was. Was it some just sort of generic office building or something?
Yeah, 100%. It was just an office on Sunset Boulevard, down in Hollywood. Yeah, and man, that was a crazy. Hollywood's a crazy place. But yeah. So for me, so COVID hit and I was working on Rise, and so I already knew I was trusted. So that was nice because I didn't have to worry kind of about those kinds of things. And and then eventually when I got to Tails, which is what I was just on before we finally got laid off here just a little bit ago, but they trusted me so much that I didn't even check in. They just handed me my assignment, and I almost never heard from anybody.
Oh, that's
Because it was
beautiful.
like, yeah, because I earned it, right? Like I
Yeah.
basically said, like don't reach out, don't ask me where everything is every 2 days. One of the big things I like to say that after I've earned a little bit of trust here and I've established a little bit of confidence with them, I like to say like my deadlines shouldn't be deadlines. So don't ask me every day where I'm at, because it's like you gave me a deadline, I will meet that deadline, and you guys, and you can trust the quality that I put out. So I don't want check-ins every couple days because that makes me feel like there's no trust. There shouldn't be trust
Exactly.
here, especially after I've earned it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you guys know I work harder than anybody. You guys like the quality of work that I put out. It's like so there should be no check-ins.
Can
Yeah, I love that. When I came up with that, I just figured I was like, don't give my deadlines. Like I already have one.
I've never
So
heard
don't
that.
ask me.
I love it. That's so true.
Yeah, don't ask me every day where I'm at. I already have my deadline. Like
Right?
if I don't meet it, then come to me and be like, hey, and if I don't meet it consistently, then I can understand why every
Right.
2 days you're asking me where my stuff is. But that never happened. I've never given you that reason, so I shouldn't. That shouldn't be occurring. And,
Yeah.
that was a big thing on turtles for me this last batch, and they were gracious enough to satisfy my hostile demands.
Well, here's one other thing, and I think like when COVID hit, just going back to the whole like having a workstation at home, I was doing a lot of traveling to Pennsylvania, where my wife's family's from. Pennsylvania and Texas. We were sort of like bouncing back and forth because we could, like why not?
Yeah.
We can visit family. So I ended up going on to Marketplace and finding 2010 and 2011 Cintiqs, which, if those of you out there don't know, with a $10 piece of software, you can completely work on them, and they are absolute beasts. I have like 4 or 5 of them. So I would buy them and leave them in different states. And I would just bring my MacBook Pro set up, and I would do my work, my California, whatever, job in another state. And, again, it was just such a wonderful, freeing thing because, before that, I had been doing public transportation, an e-bike and everything, because I was just so tired of the grind of traffic in California. But it was an interesting time. It's very interesting to have lived through those eras. And, even to today's era, which is actually like pretty terrifying in some ways because so much has changed, so much has become different with streaming, we'll get into that as well. Uh, but again, like going back to those early days, so you were in college and you had decided at some point, or you were going, excuse me, you were in California, you were like going, tagging along with your brother to the studio. At some point, I'm sure you found out there was such thing as a character design test. Did that reveal itself?
So my career got started because I decided to take a couple classes. So I have no college education. I didn't go to art school or anything.
Oh, okay.
I just took a couple classes. I went to the guild and took some Carl Ganas figure drawing classes.
Ooh.
And one storyboard class, which once again I have no boards to show you. I'm sorry, Andrew. And so I would take those and then eventually I took the Steven Silver design class. He had just opened up his little mini school, and he had like a warehouse where he had a bunch of where he taught his classes. And so I would go there, and I'd go 3 hours early, and I would draw because he let you, and I would draw for 3 hours, and then the class would start, and he'd teach us, and then I'd stay after, and I'd always try and show him the sketches I'd done throughout the week to see if there was any more criticisms that I could get. I was always very
nice.
I just wanted criticism, and he was awesome. Steven Silver, if you guys don't know him, is an amazing person.
You're living under a rock in design if you don't know Steven. He's the character designer's character designer.
Yeah, 100%. And not only that, but he's a great person. He's obviously trying to impact the world for good, and he's doing a good job at it. He always has positive messaging, and he's always trying to help people.
He worked at the Peace Corps for like years before he even went into animation, I think.
Yeah,
like he was caring about humanity, and I just thought that was such an interesting thing. When I worked at Disney, I got a chance to meet him before he was like a super big name. He was just on Kim Possible, like it was just starting, and I was lucky enough to take some of his classes at the Animation Academy before he had his own school. And man, just standing next to the dude, you're just like, like this is somebody, this is someone who has dedicated every ounce of themselves to their creativity. He must have said the word passion like a million times, whenever you're in his presence. You got to have passion. You got to do this with passion. I mean, it was constantly like pushing you to maybe he was talking to a version of yourself that wasn't even going to show up for another 3 years, but you could tell he really cared about his students, and he really cared about the work that they were producing, and had a very, very high standard. And again, as you can see with your work, I think he really did a great job. Um, giving you those those continuous pointers, and for you to be open to taking that criticism, to invite that kind of criticism in. That's something that, in my opinion, working with students now, when I see that quality in a student, it gives me goosebumps, because I know, like, wow, I'm in the presence of something. This is a special
Yeah.
person.
People who are open to criticism often progress way faster than people who aren't, because it's not about ego or pride. It's just about progress and trying to meet your goals. And you listen to people that have more experience than you and try and accomplish that. So I ended up taking his class, and I would do all that extra work. And eventually, Warner Brothers reached out to him and said, hey, do you have any young designers that we could hire? And the only name they gave was mine.
Wow.
He gave them was mine, and I think a lot of it had to do with less about talent and more about work ethic. He kind of saw that I had the chops, the potential, and then he saw my work ethic, and
wow.
and I think that was the real big reason that he recommended me, and that's kind of where my career kicked off. Ron Myrick gave me my first chance on Vault, the Wonder Deer at Dream East.
Yes,
and
I remember
it was
that.
only 2 months. It was only 2 months after that I got the offer on Be Cool Scooby Doo for Warner Brothers, and I took it and left Vault. And then after Scooby Doo ended, and a couple years later, I came back to Vault for season 2 or whatever, and I was there for another year. But yeah, Steven Silver is really, actually, honestly, how I started my career got started.
Are you guys still in contact anymore? Do you still see him, like, around the circuits of the? I don't know if you go to Lightbox or CTN.
I have a goal to go to Lightbox next year with a table and have some prints and books, maybe.
Oh,
because I've never done that, and
You've never gone?
No, I've never gone, and I want to push myself to have something done. I feel like I've lacked too much confidence, and I would like to.
You're kidding? Jeez.
To force myself into doing, to doing prints and books and stuff to really show myself that I can do those kinds of things. Right.
Because I mean, like, especially in today's climate, having sort of other things that you're doing to subsidize, when there's going to be, those breaks between jobs, used to be just something you did because you wanted some extra, spending cash, in your pocket, or, save for a rainy day type thing. But now it's become a lot more important to diversify and to have, lots of streams of income, because especially in today's climate, which, we'll talk about, in a little bit. But yeah, it's just very interesting just to see how much has changed, but definitely on the the circuit. Again, I mentioned CTM, but I definitely think Lightbox has kind of become the more powerful one, and obviously San Diego Comic Con, and then also I think Designer Con, I think, is another one that happens quite a bit. And here's the other thing that's pretty cool too today is, your phone is such a gateway to so many people. I remember just a few years ago, people were telling me to create a LinkedIn account, and I looked at LinkedIn and I thought to myself, this is so ugly. Like, what an ugly, business, corporate, whatever. I said, this is just a joke. Like, I have a resume. Why would I need to go on this other website and put my information there? They said, no, it's gonna be something. It's always somebody, who's got a better vision than me. Who's usually, it's my wife. It's usually somebody who's like, you should do this. You should get in on this before it's something. And now, to tell you the truth, it's the first thing I open when I start my day. Other than, the Bible app, but, I definitely got LinkedIn up there. And there was a time, especially right around the time of COVID, where my jobs were coming specifically from headhunters on LinkedIn, who would literally find work for me, at any of the majors, hand it to me, didn't have to test or anything, which is really nice. and they would get a small fee. Would never cut into like any of my money, and so they weren't like an agent or anything that took a continual percentage of what I was making, but they just got like a headhunter sort of finder's fee.
Right.
And what do I care? I don't care. I mean, yeah, work is work. So, like you said, aside from a nice paycheck, um, this is like an obsession. I would do this for free. Hopefully the industry doesn't know that, but
Yeah,
this,
don't let them hear
yeah.
that.
This is something that even if I wanted to stop, I don't think I could. Now both you and me, are fathers, and I don't know if you draw a lot with your kids, but I try and carve out a lot of time to draw with my daughter. She's only 2 right now, but as much as I can, I like to draw in her presence. And right now, she's really into the Little Mermaid. So I've drawn probably like somewhere between like 80 to 100 mermaids for her, because she'll constantly say mermaid, mermaid. I'm like, okay, I'll draw you another mermaid. um, but yeah, I mean, again, going back to Dream East, we had a chance to work with I believe it was a company from Asia that was trying to get
Yeah,
in.
it's a Chinese company.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know how I got connected with that job, but I remember I was
It doesn't even exist anymore.
right. Talk if they ever made a documentary about it, or just like a movie. I think it would be one of the greatest things, because I truly saw like a crew that was like a complete ragtag. You
It
had
was such a good crew. It
it
really
was
was.
you had veterans in there who'd been around from early days of the industry. You had people who were brand new. It was so incredible, especially on the board side too. I worked with her name escapes me now, but this was like her first job as well. Like you were saying with your character design, um, and she was just so excited to be there. I think I was kind of feeling a little like down because I'd come off of like directing somewhere else, and then I was like somehow I got connected with the Dream East people, and I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna board. I kind of felt like maybe it was a little bit of a step down for me,
Sure.
which was the worst kind of mindset to ever have. But so I was kind of like a little bit whatever, and then sitting next to her, she just completely reinvigorated me to remember why I was there, and that this is truly a blessing. This is truly something that maybe less than 1% of the world will ever experience, to work at a job where you truly love what you do and you're rewarded for doing
Yeah.
something that you're good at. I mean, other than like professional sports, I don't really know of a lot of jobs that do that for you with a nice paycheck, as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, so again, going from Dream East, and then jumping into Warner Brothers, which if those of you don't know, Warner Brothers is like definitely one of the top companies to ever do it. And I think right now, um, for streaming, I watch a ton of their stuff, especially all of their like sort of, I don't want to call them direct to DVD features anymore, but all the Batman stuff. I mean, I'm a huge like
Yeah.
Batman fan, so next to TMNT, the Warner Brothers stuff is like right up there for me. God bless Marvel. I do love Marvel stuff, but I'm always gonna be a Batman DC person.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
oh
my
yeah,
big
go
things
ahead.
are Ninja Turtles. My big things are Ninja Turtles, and I like Spider Man a lot.
Mm,
So
I
I got
remember.
to work on the Spider Man 2 game very briefly.
Oh,
Um, I got a credit on it. That was pretty cool. And so I've worked on a couple projects, and I like X Men a lot. And I got to work on X Men '97 briefly, but yeah. So I'm fortunate
oh my
to have worked
gosh.
on a lot of the projects. But the Ninja Turtles has literally been my number one thing since I was like 2 years old. So for me, that was the big one. Like, and I'm very fortunate to have worked on Rise and then now Tails, and I'm hoping that whatever new iteration they come up with, they realize that I'm the guy. But, like,
You know, you were around for the era just before Rise, which I'm guessing you got a chance to work pretty closely with Alan Wan. Um, you
well,
know,
yeah, he was my EP on Tails, so
I mean,
yeah,
he's
he and I
like
have become good friends.
the turtle dude. I mean, you talk about just somebody who's really championed the turtles in such a great way, giving us pretty much three definitive eras. Um,
Yep.
with Rise being, I think I want to say Rise has a really special place in my heart because I mean what it did a lot of things, not only for the beautiful design work that you guys did, but for boarding itself. It kind of scared me because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna create an era of boarding that like it's
Yeah,
almost like animating, like
yeah,
ish.
Kevin Molina's a monster. He is a monster.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second,
Uh,
like this isn't even boarding anymore. This is literally like making your own like mini. I think I'd seen something close to this. If you remember the 1999 Tarzan
yeah,
animation test that Glenn Keane did, and he was doing a
yeah,
lot of camera work within his animation, and I thought to myself like, wow, if somebody does this again, it's going to be pretty amazing. But I think Kevin Molina really revolutionized that kind of filmmaking. I don't think it's something that's going to be sustainable on every type of project,
no,
but I think
and I don't think I don't think it should be. I think Kevin needs to be the exception,
yeah.
not the rule.
But yeah, I remember
He's awesome.
Alan brought me in like right when Turtles was like starting, when Rise was starting, and he showed me just the intro of what Kevin had done to the intro, and I just remember thinking to myself like, man, he's really like almost to the point of like breaking Storyboard Pro. I mean, he's literally pushing it to its absolute limits. But I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to challenge everything you're in and make it better. And so again, like I said, I think for what was done on Rise, it really deserves a second, third, and maybe fourth watch to really like. I watch it in like pieces. Sometimes I'm just looking at your guys' design work. Sometimes I'm just looking at the colors and how you guys use color. Like I'll literally freeze frame stuff and study it. And
Yeah, I firmly believe that show was I mean, top of its game. People that don't give it a chance, I just think are fools because you're missing out on something that was
right.
so well written, so well done. And of all of the projects I've been on, Rise is the only one that I feel like where I think every single person that worked on that project loved it. Like the whole crew was awesome. Everybody put in their best work. The crew was fun. I love that crew so much. I had never had so much fun as that. And then the showrunners were awesome. Ant Ward and Andy Siriano were the nicest people, and they were always striving to help you and be better. And they were nice about it, and it was just a fun time and fun crew. And I think it really showed in the actual show. You could tell it. Every designer. And then it bled into Australia, like Flying Bark to the animation, and all those people.
Yeah, the Australians.
So, the animation came through just gorgeous and awesome, and everybody loved it and wanted to be a part of it. And so I think that canceling Rise, I think, was a big. I don't want to say it's a mistake. No, but I think it was.
You guys might have been ahead of your time because I remember, I had spoke to Alan again. This was like after. It had been on for a little while, and he said something to me that like truly like just kind of broke my heart because I think I was just complimenting like the work on it and just saying, man, just it's very innovative and it's the most exciting thing on TV right now. And he said, yeah, but the toys aren't selling. And I just remember my heart sank because like that is really what it's about, is the merchandise moving. Unfortunately it's like you have to kind of forget that this is a business and they're here to make money. And if the stuff isn't selling, it's unfortunately not gonna, it's not gonna stick around. But regardless of that, I mean, I think it's truly become a cult classic, and I think for a lot of years, people are gonna come back to it, and
Yeah,
really
I think it'll be a gold standard for a while as far as what people want to accomplish. Andy always used to come to tell us. He'd say, people I know in the industry are always asking me how we're getting away with what we're doing, and because we're doing things that is basically unprecedented in cartoons, and he's right. I think he's right.
Yeah, I think again, like now, obviously in the streaming era, how do you think things have changed? Like in terms of finding work, in terms of like employment. I feel like you've had a really nice kind of run where what Turtles kept you on for almost a decade, right?
No, I'd probably be about 5 years. I've worked for the Turtles. I got to Turtles in 2019, and then obviously they canceled Rise, and then we moved on to the movie, which lasted for about a year and a half. And so I was probably there for about 2.5 years on Rise, and then with the cancellation, and they didn't really have any Turtles projects for a while. I went to Casa Grandes, and
Nice.
then I went to X-Men '97 briefly,
Woo.
and then I did not have a great time on X-Men.
You're kidding.
Not to any of the. I think that's a me thing. It had nothing to do with the people. It had nothing to do with like. I think for me it was just a stressful show. So I really wanted to. Like I felt
like were they asking too much of you guys? Like the schedules like really
no,
tough?
I don't think so. I think I built it up in my head. The schedules were hard, and the show was hard, demanding, and there were lots of notes and things to address, and so you always felt behind. And because it was remote work at the time, this was pandemic time, so because it was remote, it was really hard to gauge anything, and I always felt like I was slow, and that got in my head. And so eventually I was like, you know what, I can't work on this. It's not good for me mentally. I was really starting to stress to a point where it wasn't healthy. And so I ended up getting an offer to go on the Casa Grandes movie, and I left and went there. And that was much, I knew my art directors really well because I'd worked on them on Casa Grandes previously, and I knew what the show kind of entailed. And so that was a much better project for me to be on mentally. I love X-Men. I love the show X-Men '97. I love the people I worked with. They were all very nice and wonderful. It's just, like I said, I felt.
Yeah, I mean
I think it just wasn't good for me. So I left, and then when I was on the movie, Tails opened up, and the funny thing is they go, we're basically trying to avoid anybody that drew on Rise because we don't think they can do the job.
You're kidding.
Well, because there's this weird stigma in character design where people feel like you can't draw certain ways. Like they feel like you only draw a certain way, which I think to some degree is an understandable stigma. I think a lot of artists kind of create that stigma by, if you go on their Instagram, they can only draw the way they draw, and that's fine.
Right.
I think to a degree that's actually liberating. I think that's what I'm starting to become more, is because I'm, for a long time, I didn't have a personal identity in my personal artwork because I've always spent my entire career trying to satisfy an art director. And so when I go home and I don't have an art director kind of tell me what to do, I feel lost.
Yeah.
It's not until recently that I've really started going, screw this, I want to draw for myself. I want to draw what I want to draw. I want to draw the way I want to draw. And,
wow.
And I'm finding my voice a little bit more now than more so than I have before. But, so I got, so on Tails, they just went like, Rise was very graphic and designy, right? Like everything was very designed. And they're like, we're not really like that. It's a little bit more raw. And I was like, I can draw anyway. Like, my resume speaks it. I've gone from Casa Grandes to X-Men '97 with Rise in between. I was like, if there's 3 stark differences in style, there they are, right? Like,
don't forget Vault. Don't forget Vault either,
Well, yeah, I got Vault, and I worked on Harley Quinn for a while, and I did work on Superman Red Sun and Wonder Woman Bloodlines. They're 2 completely different. All those styles are very different in their own right. So To me, it's pretty easy to adapt. I know how to draw fundamentally, and so I can adapt my stuff. And so,
Nice.
they decided to give me a chance and a test, and I knew Alan, so that helped a lot. I think Alan knew that I was from Rise, and he kind of pushed for me a little bit. And yeah, sure enough, I excelled. It wasn't a problem for me. I got the job, and I was able to do the work. And
Can I ask, what had you not tested in a while? Did you, or do you normally test for jobs, or do you like, are you at the point where for the most part you don't need to test? They can just kind of get a feel for what you do and you just
yeah,
walk on to shows?
it's a great question. I have been fortunate enough to where most of the time I don't test. Uh, in fact, I don't. I think I got my first test was for Casa Grandes, which was like 8 years into my career. Most of the time, people just like I got my job on Rise because Andy saw my Instagram and just reached out to me and said, "Hey, you want a job on Rise, or you want to test on Rise?" And the test was freelance work. It wasn't
Oh,
like
wow. That's amazing.
a test. And I sent back the stuff and he said, "Dude, we love your stuff. Can we hire you?" And I was like, "Okay."
And like for
um,
those for people who don't know, a test is sort of like what an actor does auditioning for a part,
yeah, that's a
where
good way to put it.
if you look at like the bigger name actors, a lot of these actors don't really do that. They don't really need to audition because their work kind of speaks for itself. But every now and again, you hear a story where like somebody, a really big name, is being asked to read and being asked that. Such a famous story of Leonardo DiCaprio not wanting to audition for Titanic, and James Cameron saying, "Well, if you're not going to audition, I'm not going to use you." He's like, "I'm not going to take a chance and not know for sure, and be emotionally involved in a project for 3 years of my life, and not be sure about my lead actor." And it was a moment where he had to make a choice. Either I put my pride aside and test, and we saw how that went. So yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing to like have. You talk a lot about you've earned the right to have trust from people, but then every now and again, if you want to take a giant leap forward artistically into a
Well, like I said,
you know
there's a big stigma where people assume you can't do certain styles.
hmm
So I think it's funny because I think I've been passed up on a couple of jobs
wow.
um, recently where they saw my Instagram and they just figured I couldn't draw their style, and I just thought, you look at my Instagram, look at my resume, look at my portfolio. Like I have every range, and not only that, but I have the reputation of like I work harder. I shouldn't probably say this with as much pride in my voice. I work harder than anybody I know. Like I will put in the effort. Like I don't think people understand. My motivation is I want to put out the best drawing possible, and I am not content until I feel like I've drawn something awesome.
Right.
So I'm never satisfied. Is what I'm trying to say. So the only reason I turn things in is because I have deadlines.
Right.
Otherwise I'm always just trying to put out the best drawing. And so what happens is a lot of times on shows is I start and I feel like I'm the worst artist there. Rise was this way. I got in and I felt so.
Wow.
I had imposter syndrome to the max.
Damn.
Because I just looked around and I thought everybody drew better than me. I was like, I don't belong here. I don't know how I got here. Those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, like I said, I put in a lot of extra time. I always made sure I put in my best work. I tried my hardest to do my best stuff. And by the end, I feel like I was one of the more trusted designers where I was asked to do a lot of the dynamic shots and things like that because they really liked when I did, those kinds of things. And so that happens a lot on the shows that I work on where it's like I start off, it might be a little rough. It might need a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two to kind of figure things out and really get comfortable with the style. But after that, then it's like, no, give me everything and I will do the coolest stuff you've seen, right? Like I will do my best to make sure it's awesome. And yeah, and I think that
because your work's got to stand for itself, and it's got to meet not only a standard for a professional level show, but it also has to meet your standards, and that's something I think a lot of people don't realize how tortured artists can actually be, because you've got this voice in your head that you're battling against, trying to say, well, am I really worthy to be here? Can I really do this? You're constantly fighting that self-doubt, no matter, I'm guessing even if people have gotten Emmys, and but that's a good thing too, in a sense where you're never really truly complacent in your own work.
Yeah,
So it's nice to be a little uncomfortable all the time, rather than just being so comfortable that you stop growing, you stop learning, you stop realizing that, like, hey, like, you're a forever student. Every job is not just to earn a great paycheck or to be another feather in your cap on your resume. You're supposed to be learning every
yeah.
time you work.
I think that's key. I think that's the way I look at it. Is while yes, this is a job, and sometimes it can feel like a job at times. For the most part, when I'm working, it's about I want to be the best artist I can be. So I use every drawing that I'm given as an opportunity to learn. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have to draw a lot of hard angles, and I have to draw a lot of dynamic poses, and I have to draw compositions, and I have to draw emotions, and I have to draw acting and stuff like that. So for me, it's like every single time I open up a new file and it's like a new drawing I have to do. One is a lot of times when we're doing these key poses, it's based on a storyboard from an artist that I get, and I look at it and I go, "Wow, I love this simple drawing. I love how much energy is in it." And then it's my job to go, "Hey, how can I capture all the energy of this board artist's drawing while putting it on model?" And
Wow.
and so I get to learn a lot from that, because then it's like, okay, I see the lines they use, I see how they simplified here in order to kind of get that energy and flow or whatever, or to get this pose and make it dynamic and things like that. And so that's where it comes in for me. Like I am always learning. I'm always trying to improve. Every drawing for me is an excuse to get better.
Man, I mean,
And I think
it's just
I think
incredible to
that's
see, like,
important.
again, like, here you are, you've done all these things, all these shows, kind of lived your dream, so to speak.
Yeah, to a
But
degree. Yeah.
you're still humble enough to say, like, hey, like, I still have plenty to learn. There's still so much more that the
Oh,
animation.
I don't even think I'm scratching the surface.
I mean,
I'm not kidding, Andres. When I look around and I see every other artist, and I just think they're better than me. I'm like, oh man, they're better than me. They're better than me. They're better than me. I wish I drew better. I wish I drew more like them. To a degree, I'm trying to get out of that mentality. I think
you're
it's
right.
important to go, like I
Smell the
said, try and
roses.
find your own voice.
Yes.
Well, find your own voice.
Can I ask,
Uh,
like, today's landscape? So, like, and I don't know if this has been your sort of, trajectory in the industry, but for me personally, I've always felt the best way to get work is through friends and relationships that you build along the way. And but now and I'm talking post 2023, the industry's changed a lot. And work has become a lot more scarce. Things have
yes.
have changed to some degree. What's your take on everything? And I don't know. For me, I just kind of felt 2023 was a little bit of a turning point where things really did start to take a turn a little bit, in terms of, like, the amount of work that was out there, the length of your time on a production. Like, what's some of your experiences now with the current industry climate, I guess?
That's a great question, and it's a hard one to articulate. But I have a couple theories here, and I think you're about right. I think 2023 is kind of the start of it. I think 2025 is where it's kind of been hit at the head.
Mm.
I think it came to a head 2025. I think we'll start to see a little bit more of a rise in jobs again, and productions here coming 2026 and on. But I think it all came to a head. I think there was a lot of stuff that occurred that all came to a head in 2025, and we're starting to feel the effects of it this year. And that is, one is the streaming wars was a big part of it.
Mm.
Back in 2018 and 2019, companies were greenlighting everything.
Everything.
Thousands of projects. Everything. There were so many projects.
So much work.
We can just put it up. We can put it on our streaming services and all that stuff. And but when everybody had the streaming wars going, and everyone has their own different no one's going to buy all 6 of them or whatever. And not only that, but I think people started to realize that they can only watch one show at a time.
Mm.
So having 30 shows up on Netflix isn't going to change. There's only going to be 1 or 2 that people are watching at a time if you're not releasing them. If you're releasing them all at the same time, a lot of them are going to get lost because the 2 or 3 popular ones will the cream will rise to the top, right? So like
Right.
And so then you just have basically wasted money that's just sitting on the streaming service, not getting any watch value. So I think there was that, and I think people got a little bit of PTSD from that when they realized, like, oh, we can't just greenlight everything and it be successful. It's not how streaming works, because people still have to, their 2 eyes can only focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
And then on top of that, you have the pandemic, which didn't slow us down, except for it did 5 years later. I think we're starting to see the effects of what the pandemic did 5 years later.
You think it created like a bubble, like a sort of bubble that needed to burst?
We worked through the pandemic. Yeah, we worked through the pandemic because we had all the jobs and the work.
Mm-hmm.
Streaming was at an all-time high too because everyone was at home, because no one could go to work and stuff. But I also think that it created things like the writer's strike. You had the actor's strike.
Right.
You had all of those things.
Jeez.
That, well, I don't know the word for this, but basically those things happen, and the effects of it are going to be felt for years to come. And I think we're starting to feel the effects of those things because, they took like 6 months on strike. Well, that means there was nothing going on for 6 months, no greenlit projects, and, things like that. And so then all of a sudden when all these shows start getting canceled or ending, now, they just started greenlighting stuff again. So now it's going to be 6 months before you start to see things again. So like, I think that's kind of happened. So between the pandemic bubble that was burst, that kind of get created, like you said, the streaming wars and realizing that they can't just put out anything and it'll be successful. And then AI showing up and kind of becoming
what an interesting anomaly, AI.
And then on top of that, there was like the LA fires that happened last year. And that, I think, puts a lot of stuff on hold. Like, I don't know. I just think a lot of things came to a head in 2025.
Yeah.
On top of, like, Skydance buying out Paramount and Skydance looking to buy out Warner Brothers or Universal or whatever it is now. And so it's like all of those things are coming in ahead. And I think a lot of that is going to create scarcity for a little while. But I wouldn't be surprised as this next year they start to, after they reformulate plans and do all this stuff, that you'll see things greenlit again and potentially more work again.
I lived for a lot of years in Redondo Beach, and maybe like a block and a half from the ocean. And one of my favorite things to do was to kind of sit on the sand, dig my feet into the sand, and just let the water kind of like brush over my feet. And it's interesting to see how nature sometimes shows you a lot. And I remember thinking to myself, well, every time the water washes over me, it needs to recede, it needs to go back into the ocean. And thinking about like how different, how the industry, it expands and it recedes, and I remember like my first year working in the industry, I got some of the veteran guys, pulled me aside and were like, hey, like, I want you to know something. And I'm like thinking, oh, they're going to tell me I did a great job today or something, They said, look, 100% of every job you're ever going to work is going to come to an end. And I remember thinking to myself, my heart sank, and I said, like, what does that mean? That sounds really dark. He said, no, like, yeah, right. And I remember they told me, that you can do anything you want with that. You can, the future. What's going to happen. Most people work jobs for like 30 years and one day they lose their job and don't know what to do. It hits them over the head, but for you, if you have that mentality early on, they started encouraging me to think like almost like a bear. You survive off. Yeah, you survive off a lot of different types of food. And you're not.
I'm having to do that right now.
And that's something too. I wanted to kind of speak to with again, you and me were very fortunate to have I want to say the most lucrative times in the industry, prior to 2023 or 2025. And for us to now, because again, if you think about it, all these kids in college, are still going to these big schools and they're still coming out to work on, all these projects. And if there's no work, on LinkedIn, I want to say like, all day long, I see people like, well, moving back home or, I've got to find regular work doing something else. And it's very hard to see, because I feel like in a way, like it's really sad to see all this great talent. We might even be losing for forever. If they decide to never come back. But I do know, in my own life, and you talked about early on your faith and how important God is in your life, and I leave it to God quite often. First thing I do when I wake up, I thank Him for another day. And I ask for His guidance. Put me wherever you need me to be, even in the great times. Where we're, I always think of the story of Job. Where I believe the devil said to God, this guy only loves you because of the good things you give him. I bet if you took away everything, he'd curse your name. And sometimes in a way like that will happen in life. We will be tested. We will be put through trials of great pain and great suffering to get to our goal. And, it's very, very difficult, especially now, to think about those things and to say to ourselves, especially now with children and, mortgages and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you do have to really think outside of the box and put your pride aside and say, look, I'm going to do whatever I need to do for the time being to get me to my next, job. But I think one thing that's been incredible that I've seen is the rise of the indie animation, rise of the creators, almost like a new era. We're going back to the era of the 90s where the creator was king.
I believe that too. I actually think that that's where the industry is headed. I think AI, ironically, is going to create more artists.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like I don't know about you, but when AI came out, I remember a good deal of my friends, my art friends, saying, "Well, I don't ever want to use, I don't even want to look at that junk. It's just ripping us off and all this." You know what I did the moment I saw it? I went to my wife and I said, I just want you to know something. I'm going to go and I'm going to purchase every AI thing out there, like every Mid-Journey, everything. And she said, why do you want to do that? Isn't it like the worst thing ever? And I said, I want to know exactly what it can do. I want to know exactly what we're up against. Like, I know there's that thing where it says, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Enemies closer. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
I was just curious to see, like, what is this thing really going to take people's jobs? Is it really? And I noticed something. I noticed that AI needs a great deal of help. It also needs our work. It needs to train itself off of artists like you and me and, other talented people. But it needs a lot of help. It's not like I can type something in and it comes out perfectly as I typed it.
But also, it becomes derivative as well.
Right. Exactly.
So it becomes a little bit redundant. But on top of everything, I think that one of the key aspects of AI is, it just look like I draw because I love to draw, right? Like this isn't. I didn't get into animation because I wanted to work for Disney or Nickelodeon. I got it, I have to get a paycheck, so that's one of the reasons I do it. But mostly, like I said, I want to be the best artist I can be. And I want to produce. So I want to tell my own stories. I don't want AI to produce for me. I want to accomplish things. So for me, AI eliminates a lot of that. I think AI can be a tool. If you use it as a tool to improve yourself, I have no problem with that.
Absolutely.
But if you're using it to just usurp the work, I think that there's the issue. And yes, there are evil people, there are greedy people. They will always use new tools to satisfy their selfish needs. So yeah, there will be companies that use AI to eliminate jobs because it's cheaper
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. Fine. All that's going to do is get a bunch of artists that want to produce work to create their own work, and we're going to see a surge of that. And I think it's actually, I wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, like Disney may not be producing it, but you're going to see a lot of people wanting, or at least I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a lot of people like myself like producing comic books, and those comic books starting to take off because they're not company based.
Right,
Um,
exactly. Like again, going back to the Australians, every student that I have right now, uh, I always, the first thing I always do is I ask them what they're watching, because I feel like students today, especially, people in, 20 somethings, they always have their finger on the pulse of like whatever's happening. And one name would continually come up, one studio, Glitch
yeah,
Productions. And for various different projects that they're doing, I'd always have students talking about them or buzzing about them. One of my students, we have a chat thing on Discord, and I mean, literally sends me updates on everything that Glitch is doing. But one thing in particular, he sends me, I thought was very, very interesting, and I do think like Glitch is one of the companies that has not only mastered their art, and their storytelling, but they have also mastered the way to make money in this current climate. And he has an incredible collection of these plush dolls, these plush toys, all based on Glitch Productions and whatever cartoons they're making. They have an unbelievable fan base of people buying their products directly from them, and they're able to subsidize cartoons. And even I hear now they're even helping other indie companies get their cartoons off the ground. And I think that's one thing that I really need to tip my hat to the Australians. I think they've really mastered the art of marketing, and mastered the art of like having your fans have a new level of like ownership in what they're watching. Like you used to have to wait, until Hasbro or Mattel or somebody's going to make your, TMNT figure. But now with like these indie projects, they're creating their own toys. They're creating their own plush dolls. They're not even waiting for like the big check to come from, the major, toy company. And I just think it's brilliant. I really see how, when an industry's pushed, to the max, to the point of almost breaking, new ideas come to the, like you said, the cream rises to the top. And
yeah.
yeah, the Australians, they're doing something.
Yeah, I really do think that AI is not going to eliminate as much as people think it will. I think it'll compete. Obviously, it'll be used, but I don't think it's the be all end all that people think it is.
True. I mean, it's interesting
Um,
because a lot of the people today, the younger people, they don't remember an era of Napster, or when it's always going to be the music industry. Nobody protects their artists like the music industry. You know, uh, our industry, they could care less about us. But the musicians, ooh, you do not want to mess with the musicians. And with all this AI music being generated, they're out for blood. So. I'm guessing, at some point this is going to get worked out fairly, where I don't know if you've ever been to the website have I been trained .com, but if you haven't, please go on it today, because you can actually see the work that they sampled. um, uh, I was able to see like all these different eras of things that I had ever posted on, especially anything on Instagram, Facebook, anything you've put online is like fair game to them, especially on Facebook and Instagram, which I'm a heavy user of, by the way.
right.
Um, and you can actually see all the work that they used to train AI. So whether you and me like it or not, we're part of that story now going forward. maybe one day again we'll get royalties, or our kids will get royalties of some of this stuff. Who knows? But until that happens, like you said, you're not going to stop creating. You're not going to stop being relevant in your field and pushing forward. Like I said, people are free to do whatever they like and look at whatever content they like. I'm not going to be someone who demonizes AI.
Either
Um,
way,
I feel like, any tool, like you said, can be useful. I will say this though, in full admission, my grammar is horrible, so I do run everything. Every email goes through, Gemini or
yeah.
ChatGPT because I just have awful grammar. So,
Well, yeah, I agree. I don't think, and I'm not a fan of witch hunting. I kind of hate that. I think it's so stupid. But so like, yeah, like I said, I think it's all about self. Like you should be looking to improve, and if you're using AI to assert the progress, the journey, if you're just using it to be lazy or to get a quick result or things like
hmm
that, then that's where I have a problem with it. I'd say it's no different than it's better to work out than it is to take Ozempic or whatever it is, and
oh,
just
right.
like you're gonna get it's better for your just period. It's gonna pay off more dividends if you just work to you know to acquire a skill that you desire, and um, but yeah, I don't think it should. People use
Yeah,
it to use it. It
yeah.
just
Those early days, like I said, when Midjourney was, coming out, and everybody was up in arms. And again, like I said, close friends of mine were like, this is awful, and I don't even want to look at it. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't you want to look at it? Why wouldn't you want to know everything that it can do? You know,
yeah, at least
um,
get to know it, right?
I'm like, hey, let's be bunkmates. I want to see what you can and can't do, And I was pleasantly surprised. I'm not saying that it hasn't improved since that time, but still to this day, um, I'm constantly testing it and seeing like what it can do. How can it, generate art, line work, all those things, and it's getting pretty good. I will say it's actually getting pretty good. I don't use it for any kind of like business purposes or anything, but just
Yeah,
in my
same.
own free time, you know, um, I'm always looking at things that could, I don't want to say threaten what we've built, and what we've done our whole lives, but it is pretty fascinating to see someone just type in a prompt and something pops out of the other end. You can definitely tell when you look at something. I think people are very, very good at detecting when something is AI, which
Yeah.
is a really good thing for you and me, because that shows like they can definitely suss out things that just don't feel quite right. So
I also feel like that is over. It can be overdone, and people have started to see AI and everything where it's not. So,
right,
yeah,
it's another bubble is forming. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying maybe this is the next level of human intelligence, that's gonna cure cancer one day. Who knows? But until then, I feel like nothing is truly evil. It's just like you said, the intention of the person using whatever tool it is. And hopefully, like I said, people are responsible and use it in a way that's going to be good and meaningful, and also pay tribute to where it came from, which is humanity. None of that would be possible without artists like you and me busting our butts at what, like you said, 5 in the morning, pushing ourselves to the absolute limits of our abilities, and demanding more from for the work we do. um,
yeah. I think most of all, like the way I look at it is I evaluate a lot of stuff based on needs. So I have two children, and I say we'll say hypothetically, if my wife were to die tomorrow in a car crash or something like that, I could wallow all I want, but the truth of the matter is my children still need me. So it doesn't serve me to wallow for too long. I can be sad, but really my kids will still need me to feed them and go to work and provide for them. So it's like I'll have a need, and needs are important, and because it basically means if you recognize those needs, no excuse is a good excuse. So what I'm trying to say is AI exists, and if AI exists, it doesn't change the motivation I have internally to want to be a better artist and to produce. So it's like, and if I have to make money to survive in order to do it, I've got to be. The need provides for me a way to be creative, or requires me to be creative in order to make it work. So basically, as long as you keep your feet moving and you do stuff, AI is not going to take your job. You'll find ways to make it work.
Absolutely.
It just depends on how. We'll go back to seeing this, how passionate you are.
Yeah.
How much are you? What are you willing to do to obtain what you desire? And AI is not going to stop you. That's the thing too. Is AI doesn't replace people. It's just now competing with people. So
wow.
You have to find out how to beat it.
Right. Yeah.
It is now a new boss challenger has arrived, right?
Right. Like, you've unlocked, the next level of, challenge. But I mean, again,
may take a couple tries. Keep fighting it. Eventually, you'll figure out its pattern and beat it.
If you could, again, speak to the 2025 person coming out of college and coming out of school right now, what would you like to tell them? Do you have any advice for people who are currently entering the job market for the first time or looking to become professional?
Being that I'm in that boat right now, because Paramount just laid us off, right? So I'm looking for work currently myself. And I have a firm belief, once again, backed up by my religious background, is that, in religion, you'd say faith precedes the miracle. And what that means to me is those who keep their feet moving will find work. So, however you want to dissect that. But basically, I believe that as you put yourself out there, as you continue to draw and you continue to draw and you continue to draw and you post on Instagram and things like that, and you are continually doing things, but just sitting around and waiting won't do anything. And being insecure won't do anything. So it's like if you don't like your work, you're like, I don't think anyone will like this. It's not about if people like it. It's about putting in work. Keep your feet moving, and as you do that, like I said, I got my job on Rise and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because I posted artwork. That was it. I got an Instagram message, and it was because he saw my Instagram. That was it.
Wow.
And so if I never posted my artwork, I never would have gotten that job, and so that's what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to create stuff that I think will be awesome and stuff that I love. And if you do that, people will gravitate toward it. Eventually someone's going to come to you. I've literally gotten job offers because, I put out, hey, I'm looking for work, and I got an email from Warner Brothers, and it was like, hey, I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I really love your stuff, and I think, you might be a good fit here. Unfortunately, that was the job I didn't
get. Which is part of it, There's going to be ups and downs.
Yeah, it's all part of it. But, basically, like, have goals and make plans. But, basically, you should have goals and stuff like, I want a table at Lightbox this next year because, so then it focuses you. It focuses you on, if I want a Lightbox table, that means I need prints. And so I need X amount of prints by this time. And so then it's like, you focus yourself and you do those things in order to accomplish that. And then you go to Lightbox, and guess what will happen? You'll meet people. You'll network. People will see your work and be impressed. And if they talk to you, they might be even more impressed based on your, how you talk to them and your responses and things like that. So I am a firm believer that people who keep their feet moving, good things come.
Wow.
But people who lay down and let the wind push them over, or whatever it is, defeat them. Obviously, if you let it defeat you, you're defeated. You won't ever succeed. It's only the people that get back up and push and observe and try and figure out the patterns and things like that that'll get it down. There's ways to succeed in this life despite all of the stuff going on. In fact, my argument, here's the philosophical side of me. no matter what occurs in life, it is your obligation to figure out how to overcome it. So many people in today's landscape, especially a couple years back, would say, They would make any excuse. Oh, it's because of the color of my skin. It's because this person doesn't like me. It's because of blah, blah, blah. Even if those things are true,
Mm-hmm.
it is unacceptable to let those things dictate your life.
Wow.
You know, they are obstacles to overcome. They are not be-all, end-all results. If you have a boss that doesn't like you, if you have, you know, if life is harder because of X, Y, Z, it doesn't change the obligation that you have. No one else is going to do it for you. You have the obligation to figure it out and figure out how to succeed in spite of those roadblocks, in spite of those obstacles. I go back to the needs. If the meteor was coming to hit planet Earth right now, and you could save the world by going to get a bag of bread from the nearest grocery store, what would you let stop you from accomplishing that?
Wow. That's pretty
right?
powerful.
If you got in a car accident, would that stop you? Right? We see these movies all the time, and the reason we love them is because these heroes do that, right?
Right.
They're often normal. They're normal people that we don't think, that don't think that they can accomplish anything of great value. But what they do is they realize, you have that point of no return, and they realize, like, oh, I have to do this. I have no choice but to do this. And I think it's a similar concept in life. If you look at it like that, like if the world was going to end tomorrow or, soon, but, you could save the world by getting this bag of bread, what would you let stop you?
Wow.
Or even put it maybe a little bit more visceral of an example. Your family is starving and there's a zombie apocalypse, and you know that there is food in the city next to you. What would you let stop you from accomplishing that to help, feed your family and save their lives? So it's like, it's similar. If you have that kind of a primal urge to succeed in animation, what's stopping you? Are you going to let some moron that doesn't like you stop you? Are you the first person that tells you you're not good enough stop you? What is it that's going to, how weak is your dream, and how easy of an excuse can you make that'll stop it from happening? And that's what I realized in my career. And that was a big shift in my career. Was I used to be pretty pessimistic and down on myself. And it wasn't really until I realized that no excuse is a good excuse when it comes to satisfying those needs that I came to start to accomplish more. Because I went like, oh, if I want this, how bad do I want this? And what am I willing to let it stop me? Do I want to play video games all day, or do I want to get better as an artist? I'm tired. Well, if you're tired, you're not going to work. You're not going to get better. So are you going to work through being tired, or are you going to let tired, lay you down and push you over, knock you out? And it's like, okay, so I'm going to start working through being tired, working through being sick. It's because I want this. I want this. I want to get better. And even now, right now, I'm doing the same thing. It's like, I want to get better. I want to get better. I want to get better. So I wake up every day, and it's like, what are you going to let stop you?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And if you have that level of motivation and passion, then you're going to find a way to succeed. That's just how it is.
There's like one of the previous podcasts, I was talking to, her name was Esri, and she is one of those people that we're talking to right now. And I told her, I said, there used to be this ancient thing called VH1, and it was sort of like a secondary MTV. And she did not know what it was either, by the way. So yeah, I felt extra old. And I said there was this one documentary about this band called Smash Mouth. And, they had this like catchy song that was like in the Shrek movie. Forget the name of the song. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Rockstar. I think it was Rockstar or All Star. So one of those things.
All-Star. It's All Star.
Yeah. Whether you like the band or not or anything like that, it's immaterial. But the lead singer, who I think just recently passed, he said something that was so powerful to me. And he said, this is in the days before they got their record deal. He told his whole band, he said, like, every day we're going to do one thing that gets us closer to a record deal. He's like, whether that's writing a song, whether that's, practicing, our current set of songs, whether it's like taking a flyer and posting it on a telephone pole, making a call to, an A&R person. One thing every day that gets us closer to our goal. And I thought to myself, like, what a powerful message that is. Like, literally, like, you think of the absolute Mount Everest of what it could be like to get your a first job in the animation industry, or you look at any set of circumstances that can be challenging and it's overwhelming. It feels like, wow, how am I going to climb that mountain? But when you break it down to something as simple as like, what can I do today? Like you said,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
maybe
Exactly.
put down the PS5 for just a few minutes and work on that idea that you had, or work on doing maybe a post a day on Instagram, like you were saying. Just
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You have a focused objective, right? Like
absolutely
what is your bread at the grocery store that's gonna prevent the meteor from crashing out?
right.
Right. Oh, buddy,
So
I'm talking to somebody, buddy. And so it's like, so yeah, so it's like, sorry, uh, yeah, so it's like find out what that is and accomplish it. It's like if you need to be better, if you want to get better at painting, what are you gonna what actions are you gonna do daily and weekly and monthly to accomplish that and set those goals and try and accomplish those. It's like set a realistic goal at the end of the month. I want one of the few ones I did for myself was I call untitled. I call every drawing I have untitled. It's untitled. And then every new one is just numbered up, right? And my goal last year, 2024, when I started the year, I said I want to do I averaged about 35 a year of untitled drawings, which is basically my sketches, my studies, and or my finished stuff. And now, granted, a lot of those have like 20 layers in them sometimes, but I averaged about 35, and a lot of them are finished. Like when I finish one, that's like that. In my mind, I kind of consider that like more so my goal. And in 2024, I said I want to do 100 untitles by the end of the year.
Wow.
And last year, 2024, let's see, I was proud of myself because I got up to 85.
Amazing.
That was pretty good. And I saw a lot of growth that year. And so 2025, ironically, I didn't have the resolution for this, but I am literally drawing Untitled 85 right now. So I'm already caught up to 2024, and I've done a lot more work this year than I've ever done. And if I continue this, then I'll be able to accomplish my goal of having like a table and Lightbox with stuff to sell or a book to sell that I've never done before. I'm working on my own. I have 2 projects I'm working on myself. I have a video game that I'm working on for myself, and I've got 2 comic ideas that I'm trying to.
So are you saying you got a Kickstarter or Indiegogo in the near future?
I'm hoping. Well, near future might be a couple of years, but yeah, I'm hoping that is the case, and I really want to accomplish it. That right now is my bread.
Amazing.
And, to a degree, I feel like in this changing landscape, that is going to be how I earn my bread. So I don't find it an inappropriate analogy to say that. So
yeah, I definitely
in a sense,
think.
I feel like the meteor is coming toward Earth, and I need to go get that bread at the grocery store. And for now, I feel like that my comics and my video game idea are that bread. And so I'm really trying hard to not let the obstacles or anything kind of justify me stopping. I'm trying to really get there.
Amazing. Well, before we go, I just wanted to, of course, thank you, because your insights, your personal philosophies, I mean, these things are so powerful. And, you're a person that's really put these philosophies into action, into daily action. And it's, again, the work you've done in this short amount of time. I really do feel like you're still, just at the cusp of your career, so there's still many more years of great work that you're going to be doing. No, absolutely.
I do feel like I'm getting better, and I do feel like I'm starting to get my own voice, and I wouldn't be surprised if one day I finally get to like have a show in my style,
Oh, definitely. I think that's going to happen a lot sooner than you think. Whether it's through the indie, Kickstarter, or doing it yourself, or any one of those avenues. How can people get a hold of you? I know you are currently looking for your next project.
Yes.
Professionally, how can people get a hold of you? Do you prefer people reach out to you via Instagram or?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. And you can always email me at brycecollinsart@gmail.com is my professional email, if you will.
Yeah, and I'll probably include that in the description of the podcast. And again, so amazing to talk to you. Like I said, I truly, the thing I love most about the animation industry, of course, it's the great work that you get to watch and enjoy, but it's the people. I mean, for me personally, the friendships that you make, the great advice, the life experience. I mean, the people are so magical and so much more interesting, I think, sometimes than even the work they produce. Just
I can agree with that.
you know what I mean? Like just those little moments at the studio. It's it's late at night, maybe you and just one other person, and they're just sharing things that they've experienced in their life, or sharing something, an insecurity that, like you said, maybe they felt they couldn't, reach a goal or achieve something, but they pushed through it. I really feel like
Absolutely.
this podcast in particular is really something where if you are struggling and going through those trials in life, um, push through it. Really, really push through it, and dig deep. I think that's a message that I've gotten clear from you today, is to dig deeper and to really ask yourself those tough questions. Do you really want this, and how badly do
You
you
know,
want this?
and frankly put, you'll have to ask yourself that question a lot. I like to say it only, you only have to say it one time. But man, you have to look yourself in the mirror
Right?
and readjust and remotivate yourself. I always loved when people asked. One of my favorite questions I get is like, how do you stay disciplined? Or how do you keep the motivation?
Mm,
Right? And I say, you don't. That's why it's called a discipline.
wow.
Like the idea behind discipline is that you do it even when you're not motivated.
Wow.
And that's been the big one for me is I'm trying to get better at a lot of things, and so I tell myself I have to do something every day. I have to study drawing heads or painting or whatever it is I'm trying to improve on every day, because if I don't do it every day, I'm not going to progress the way I want to. And so it's like, even if I'm tired, I got to make sure I do these. Like I do my studies every day, every day, every day.
Amazing.
And so it's like, and a lot of times there are days I don't want to do it, but guess what? I look at the bread that I want to get, and I go, no, I have to do this if I want to get there.
That's right.
And so then it's like, even though I'm not motivated, I'm disciplined, and I do it anyway.
Amazing. Yeah, again, like I said, just so much. I really do feel, again, like I said, if you're out there and, reach out to people, reach out to your friends. You don't have to go through any of this stuff alone, and that's one thing that I've learned since being in the animation industry. Your friendships and the bonds that you make, those will carry you through, especially in the lean times, because I guarantee you the friendships you make, one of those people will have your next job, and vice versa. If someone's gracious enough to find you work, you do it for them and say, hey, I know somebody who can, help you with X, Y, and Z. And again, you don't have to hear this from me, but I definitely know that the next project you'll be working on will be truly amazing. And like I said, I cannot wait to see what you jump onto next, man.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Bryce. Again, such a pleasure talking to you. We need to do this more. Like I said, I truly value our friendship, and really appreciate you doing this.
Agreed. Now you have me hungry for Miguel's, though.
Right? Yes, Corona Mexican cuisine is something that I tell you, Miguel's did something. I'm here in North Texas where it's all Tex-Mex, and I just can't get into it. The barbecue.
I'm not Texas.
Yeah, the barbecue out here is brilliant. I mean, I've never had barbecue this incredible. We recently actually were in your neck of the woods. My nephew just got married. It was really beautiful too. He was also baptized in the Mormon faith. We got a chance to be present at that too, which was really beautiful and special. Yeah, he's like right outside of Provo, and beautiful place. I mean, just the just being there and just seeing the mountains, and I mean you don't really get that here in Texas, but just a truly beautiful place. So
Utah is a beautiful state. It's actually a wonderful state. It gets a bad rap for dumb reasons. It's a beautiful state. I highly recommend it.
it's wonderful. Again, like I said, I didn't want to leave. I was like, can we just stay? Awesome.
Utah's a nice place.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andres. I really appreciate it, man.
No problem, buddy. And again, I will put your contacts in the description of this. And if you are listening, please check out Bryce's work. Definitely on Instagram as well, because you will not be sorry.
Appreciate it.
All right. You take care, buddy. And you have a great day, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.